Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 UC Davis Picnic Day Fashion Show, Uncharted. I hope everyone is comfortable and is excited for today's show. My name is Olivia Chauvin, and I am the Chief of Marketing of Fashion and Design Society at UC Davis, as well as one of the designers you'll be seeing in today's show. I'm honored to be your MC for this wonderful event. Our team has been working tirelessly this entire year to prepare for this show, and I would like to thank you all for coming today and supporting our incredible designers. Typically, the annual fashion show is held in person on Picnic Day. This year, however, it's been a bit different, so for the first time, we are hosting a completely virtual fashion show. Our theme this year is Uncharted. Since quarantine, we've all been learning to adjust and adapt to the new circumstances, and online learning and working from home have become a part of our journey of discovery. So please join us as we look towards a brighter future and explore uncharted territory. Before we jump right into this show, we will hear briefly from the Chair of Department of Design, Simon Sadler.
Welcome to the UC Davis Department of Design Annual Fashion Show 2021, Uncharted. I am Simon Sadler, Chair of the Department of Design, and I am excited to welcome you to the first ever virtual fashion show organised by our talented students. Today's virtual fashion show is presented by the Fashion and Design Society, a student-run organisation created to support the fashion design students of the Department of Design at UC Davis. This year, the students of Design 179's Signature Collection class, a fashion capstone studio course taught by Professor Gersda Gonju-Burke, took inspirations of fashion impressions from different walks of life and interpreted them into their own expressions. You will see 10 dynamic collections created by these talented student designers. In addition to the Signature Collection, you will also enjoy single garment presentations and a live Q&A session with the Signature Collection designers at the end. I would like to thank you for joining us here to celebrate the creativity and determination of these hardworking student designers.
Wow, what a wonderful show. I hope you all enjoyed the amazing showcase of work from all of our student designers. Each of these designers have done a phenomenal job putting together their collection from design to construction to the presentation of their videos, especially given the circumstances and challenges of working remotely. Many of you may be curious about these talented designers and the thought process behind each of their collections. We will be asking each designer a couple of questions that were collected from the registration form, and hopefully, this gives you some insight into their design process and inspiration. First up, let's meet our first five designers: Maya, Ki, Mao, myself, and Suyen. Here we go. Hello. Hi, everyone. Okay, so our first two questions we have, so we can start with in the order that we kind of went in. So, Maya, so how did COVID and remote working impact your creative process and making process in developing your collections? And we have another question. What drives your creative process and how do you come up with ideas for your collections? And you can give us a few examples.
I think it was definitely a challenge designing back home in a very different environment from the one in Davis and trying to feel confident about my ideas without being able to bounce ideas off of my friends. But I think it definitely helped me learn about my own creative process and kind of how to generate concepts on my own. But for this collection, the inspiration came from a eucalyptus tree I used to see on my walk every day over the course of quarantine. I was inspired by like the rigidity and fluidity that existed within the same tree. And so that was definitely something I wanted to come through in the collection. I think generally my art practice tends to be a more spiritual process in the sense that whatever I'm working on kind of reflects what I've been thinking about, whatever is happening in my life at the time. So I kind of let that bleed through into my work, and oftentimes I end up learning something about myself that I didn't know before. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Key, how has COVID impacted you, or what is your inspiration for your line?
Sorry.
It's okay.
So for me, COVID and remote working has restricted my routines to just stay at home, and it's kind of isolated from the surroundings. But before COVID, I always like to bike around for inspirations through like observations, shopping, and some sort of activities like that. But after COVID, the only sources I can access to is just the online sources, and because of COVID, I spend more and more time on the social media, um, for which I got my inspirations from and got inspirations from my pattern making. But it's actually kind of provided convenience for that.
Awesome.
And for my collection ideas, my primary driving forces for my collections are just from my traveling plan. Because I plan to go to the where the wall paintings located, the Dunhuang in China. But because of COVID and summer school, I'm not able to go back to China and pay a visit to the spot in person. So and I also heard some of the news talking about that the paintings and the buildings are locked down now for just protection purposes. um, it's sad, and I really want to bring some of the characteristics back to the world and to my collections to allow people to see the beauty and to allow me to show the beauty of the wall paintings. And another inspiration is due to the current craze of cyberpunk, I really want to bring the cyber elements into my collections and combine that with the characteristics from the wall paintings. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you can definitely see that in your work. It's really cool. Mao, how has COVID impacted you, and what are your inspirations for your collection?
Hey, so I think limiting person interaction kind of gave me less opportunities to discuss the garments. But more time at home kind of allows me to just do more research online and being able to create clothing that can provide comfort and protection is my main drive. So, I mean, yeah, so it's like kind of putting functionality and minimalism into clothing. And yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Suyan? How has COVID impacted you, and what are your inspirations for your line?
Oh, I think like COVID-19 have made me more focused on myself. Huh?
Yeah.
Am I mute? Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're good.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, because okay. Yeah, I think COVID-19 have made me more focused on myself, which I think have both good and bad effects on my design skill. With less social interaction, I was able to significantly improve my skill and software use. And as I have to think and do a lot of things on my own, also my work hours were more flexible because my home studio was open 24-hour a day. However, being isolated have kept me in a depressing status for a long time, and also being able to connecting only through the internet have reduced my motivation and creativity. I think it's because online class lack the engagement of like face-to-face experience. And for this correction, I was inspired by my previous major architecture design. POMO stands for postmodernism. It is a unique and diverse style of architecture that reject the idea of the whole concept and emphasizing design individually and specifically. I chose to apply this concept postmodernism to this correction, emphasizing uniqueness using compressed line design and sewing techniques such as pin-tuck, pleats, and layering as a reaction to the unchanging fast fashion design.
Awesome. Yeah, I've said this to you before, but yeah, you can really see the architecture in your work. It's really cool. I know for me, COVID has impacted me a lot. I feel like our workspace, before we had a workspace and a home space, and now those two things have been combined. So it's made that really, really difficult to kind of adapt and adjust and try to work around those things. I know my workspace, because when we were at school, like I could get messy with my workspace, and now my workspace is where I sleep and eat. And so that's a whole nother thing. But for my inspirations for my line, primarily comes from I really like structured dark clothing. So that's what I kind of gravitated towards. I also really like streetwear. And so trying to combine that with like a feminine style is kind of where I got that from. The name of my line is Ivor, which kind of comes from the French term for winter, hiver, just minus the H. And so that's what it was. It was a winter line. And winter is my favorite season. I love wearing winter clothes. So pretty simple, but I really enjoyed all that stuff. So why not combine it all? Okay, so now we're going to go and talk to our last 5 designers, Christina, Vanya, Christine, Madison, and Ingrid. Give me a moment. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay. So, we're going to start off with Christina. I'll just say the questions again so that you remember. So how did COVID and remote working impact your creative process and making process in developing your collections? What drives your creative process, and how do you come up with ideas for your collections? You can give us a few examples if you'd like. So Christina, you can start first.
Yes, hi. So for me, before the pandemic, I loved being in the sewing lab with my classmates. I loved sharing my ideas with them, and just being with people in the same room makes everything lively and exciting. But for the past few months, I've definitely had more time and space to design, but I was not very used to it. Everything felt so like different, and it became a very independent and isolated process. But there were times where ideas just like come. I'd be just staring at a blank wall for 20 minutes and no idea would cross my mind. But I think from that, I really learned that like working independently gives me a chance to really listen to myself. And I was able to change and play around with my ideas a lot. And I don't even remember how many times I had to change my sketches and my ideas. So my original sketch is completely, not completely, but it's different from my final collection. But I really worked my way up until I became happy and satisfied with my garments and something that has worked for me, which is keep designing and don't give up. And as for my design ideas and inspirations, they came from how I've been really feeling in this quarantine. I felt a bit isolated and disconnected from everything that I wanted to design. But I wanted to design a collection where I can feel free and unrestricted again. So I used white and blue and as the main color, and elements such as flowy and effortless to really represent a sense of freedom and simplicity that I wish to deliver for the community and the world. And really just seeing how everything came together as a whole makes me feel really accomplished and happy. And so it's definitely a very rewarding and humble experience for me.
Awesome. Thank you. We can go to Vanya. How did COVID impact you and your creative process?
Yeah, so kind of similar to what everyone has said, the pandemic has made it a bit more difficult to design because I think design is not meant to be isolated, and working from home does not have like the same creative environment since I'm unable to bounce off ideas from other people. And because of that, I guess I'm being pushed to be more creative and finding other ways or other sources of inspiration when I was making my collection. And definitely the limited space has impacted my design process as well. And for my ideas, I wanted my collection to be zero waste collection. So I started looking for inspiration from reading about zero waste designing. Then I started exploring the act of folding fabric instead of cutting away. And I came up with my ideas by playing around with the fabric and pinning it on the dress form, sort of like an impromptu process, letting the outfit take into shape without a script and improving the look to make it more cohesive.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Um, let's see, Christine. How has COVID impacted you and what's been your inspiration for your collection?
So during COVID-19, it's definitely a lot of different in general, and it's definitely more challenging to work fully at home because to work at a limited space is also uh, kind of like sometimes it makes me feel like a little bit stuck, and it's hard for me to to really kind of work not only from the inspirations but also like from the materials because everything is kind of limited at that time, so it's hard for me to go to the next step to build up more. But one thing I noticed, like to experience uh, fully design from home at this time, but I think it's very interesting because it's definitely challenging, but I feel like it is time like to overcome all the difficulties we are experiencing right now, and also like we really can
kind of settle down our mind and to really focus what we have to do on our collections. So yeah, and also mainly for the inspiration ideas is my brother, my younger brother, and because I currently live with him, and I really want to show him about like what is fashion and how also like to really enjoy fashion because normally we never would talk about it about or talk about the garments or it kind of dress him up. I never done that before, so I think it's a great chance for me to, start from scratch to make a collection for him. And also, I really want to show my love to him. So I love to put a lot of effort in this collection. So yeah.
I said this before, but you're like the best big sister. Okay.
Only this time.
No. Okay. Madison, how has COVID impacted you and what's your creative process, your inspiration?
COVID actually pushed me to work harder on my designs because it was the only outlet I had to escape the whole pandemic. When designing my collection, I was inspired by the next stages of my life after graduating and what I was going to go through and all the missed opportunities my peers and I are going through due to our current state.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ingrid, what's your, how has COVID impacted you and what's your inspiration behind your collection?
Yeah, so I think, just going off of like what everyone else has said, COVID definitely made designing more challenging. Like many things were limited due to the situation, including like, not having access to certain materials and like, I think most importantly, it's just not being able to bounce ideas off of other people like we used to do in like studios and things like that. And I think not being able to feed off of that energy that you get with like other designers was kind of hard in the beginning, like kind of different that we had to adapt to. But I think having worked through and having designed my entire collection kind of during quarantine and like at home definitely made like pushed me to try to be more creative and like kind of find ways to find ideas and like get that creative outlet going. So I think the inspiration for my collection really just came out of the current situation. Since I was at home a lot, I was just like thinking in my head, and a lot of my collection is based off of like my imagination. And I really wanted to create something that was brighter and kind of brought more joy in the midst of like all the challenges that we're going through. So my collection is really based on spring and kind of that fantasy like whimsical nature. And so a lot of my looks are based off of that inspiration. And I tried to convey that through new means and like try to give that energy off.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, that was the end of the Q&A. So I'll head to this screen. I would just like to thank all the designers that have participated in the fashion show today. If you enjoyed the show, we would love to encourage you to support our fellow designers at UC Davis. The link to donate is listed in our Twitch bio or about page, as well as in the chat. You can find it on our website or social media as well. To make a donation, simply click on the link and it will lead you to the Give page where you can support us in hosting this wonderful event each year. If you would like to learn more about the designers who presented today, head over to our website at fads@ucd.org. The link is also listed in our Twitch bio, our about page, websites, all of the above. I would also like to give a quick announcement about an incredible opportunity coming up on April 22nd. UC Davis Design Department has the pleasure of having Julia Coroner speak at the Alberni Lectures. Julia is a leader in 3D fashion design, and she's worked with costumes for Black Panther, as well as the couture designer Iris Van Herpen. The event is free and open to the public, so I highly encourage you or anyone who's interested to check it out. Finally, I would like to thank you all for coming to our very first virtual fashion show, Uncharted. We hope you enjoyed the show. We have some very talented designers, and we couldn't be more proud of all the work that they've put in for the past 10 weeks. We would also like to thank all of our FADS officers for putting this show together. We seriously could not have done this without you. You guys are absolutely incredible. And just putting this all together. A special thank you to Michael French and Simon Sadler. And last but certainly not least, a big, huge thank you to Professor Gozde Gonshu-Burke for guiding us and helping us make this show a success. On behalf of everyone, thank you all for watching and supporting the 2021 UC Davis Fashion Show. Bye.